syndrome, and there's an average looking man on there. He's not an average looking man, he's an autistic person. You can see that he is a man, and yet he is speaking up for autistic women. You also notice how the other picture is a woman with Down syndrome, and it says autism. One of these is intentionally misrepresenting autism, and the other one is an example of an autistic person speaking up for others. That's who we are. Primarily autistic males are that way. We are very outgoing in a way that we shouldn't be. We feel bad for people because we get the worst of the worst. We feel bad for black people who get shot by the police because, well, we're more likely to get shot by the police, but we understand the fear because we're very likely to get shot by police. Just for existing, just for stimming. Getting beaten, getting tased, getting accused of crimes we didn't commit just because we're weird. Getting accused of crimes that you didn't commit just because you're weird fucking sucks. Then nobody will listen to you because you're different. And then you literally have to do crazy things in order to try to get heard. You get to see how, if you watch that video about the DSM-5, you get to see how intentionally misleading it is. Because when they say autistic person, her picture is what pops up. So they're intentionally trying to associate autism with Down syndrome. Trying to make us all be misrepresentative of ourselves and our people. By you pretending we're all, well, you guys remember the 90s, some of you, when people with Down syndrome had to fight for the right to have sex. With people claiming that two consenting adults with Down syndrome, that they couldn't consent because they had Down syndrome, could not have kids because they have Down syndrome, could not raise their own kids because they have Down syndrome. And their parents are so evil about that. Many of these people with Down syndrome who had kids showed themselves to be better parents than most of you ever were. But they have Down syndrome. So they didn't have that right. And now people try to do the same thing with autistic people. Some of our parents, like Leatha Plunkett, wanted to have her son chemically castrated without his knowledge before he turned 18. So that he could never have kids. Gabriel is remarkable and intelligent. He just never exercised his intelligence in the way that he could have, because his parents would have been against it. They're the type of parents that come from low income, and you will do as they say. Are all low income families like that? No. But very much a hit to the family means a lot more when you're a poor person. A rich person has a lot more people with eyes on them, but they also have a lot safer environments to retreat to. Between having to hide in your car, in a parking lot where you could get towed just for existing, and having to hide out in a $14 million mansion, yeah, at least you've got a safe place to be. You've got doors that you can lock and rights when people victimize you. I don't have any rights because I have no property. Nobody's ever going to pay me enough to get property. You say, oh, you don't know that. You know what? You go ahead and be a douchebag and try to point out the 1 in a million cases where people overcame such great adversity. They're not even 1 in a million, just so you know. When people are autistic, if they can't hide mask all the time and you find out they're autistic, You want them gone. You want to pretend that they're too retarded to understand people. Your vision and view of autistic people versus the actual reality for us are not the same. You don't understand autistic people, so you pretend that we're the ones who are socially awkward and socially stupid. No, we just aren't comfortable with you people being a bunch of fucking liars. We've all got built-in lie detectors, and we can tell you're full of shit when we're little kids. But then, of course, you lie to us about your motives and intentions when we call you out on your bullshit. And then, of course, we're only supposed to take you at your word, not at your actions. And then, of course, when you're being sarcastic and you tell us to leave, well, we've had people that were sarcastic and telling us to leave that weren't being sarcastic and assaulted us. So when you tell us you're just kidding, I had one guy kick me out of his house 3 times in like 5 minutes. Every time telling me, no, I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you. Come back. I'm just messing with you. Finally, I got sick of his shit and I just left. I was like, you know what? The 3rd time he punched me in the stomach after putting his arm around me and saying, you know, man, I'm just messing with you. You know, I'm just messing with you. And then he sucker punched me in the stomach. And he's like, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. No, it wasn't just playing. It was malicious and it was mean. And he did it with other people there because it's a show of power and bullying, just like the Natalie Bollinger situation. And then individuals in all the places I'm forced to move to, they don't stop to recognize what this is really like, or the repercussions for others, themselves included, unless they actually have to feel it for themselves. Oh my God, Sean, how dare you post my personal information, huh? Well, that's the information you chose to give me. Also, you chose to tell me to do something that I've got recorded me doing at least 3 to 5 dozen times. And you're not looking at that stuff. You're just telling me over and over again like a broken record. Have you tried TFCC? Yes, I have. Oh, shit. Well, that was fun. It comes out as a chunk, but then it turns into a liquid pretty quick. Let me show you. Yeah, it turned into a liquid on my shirt, and I had to scoop it off. And it also turned into a liquid on my thing here. But now it's almost a solid liquid. See, I cracked it. That's because the water that's in it is now seeping into the seat here. And it's going to make it a crispy piece. It's got somewhat of a form to it. It's together. Really cool stuff. Now in a dried out state like this, it doesn't really want to melt, but it eventually will. If I set that piece and this piece together, they'll eventually melt down the side of that into that pile of friggin' tobacco. Now we get to see the picture on the front of here, the DSM-5. How they show a picture of someone with Down syndrome. That is intentionally misrepresenting us. Just like allowing false notions that were disproven in the 90s to continue to prevail in court and be used as a weapon against the most victimized people in America. The American homeless. Disabled males. Homeless and disabled males have it worse than anyone. The only way to have it worse than a homeless person is to be a homeless minority, and that's it. Being a homeless woman is not tougher than being a homeless man. It's a lot easier. And the fears are exactly the same. Men out here on the streets, depending on their size and their demeanor, do have to worry about getting raped by women and men. And we're also a lot less likely to come forward because, first of all, we're less likely to be heard. Second of all, we're more likely to be victimized for coming forward, demasculated and abused for being demasculated. Told that you're allowed to have an opinion, you're also allowed to speak up about your abuse, and you're allowed to have emotions, and then you get bullied and told to go to the back of the bus when you speak up about your abuse. and people assign emotions to it to make it somehow magically okay for them to harm you and pretend like you're the bad guy. And every woman in America knows how to do this. God, my hand hurts. I got to quit for a bit. Like I said, I'm doing stuff to try to rehabilitate myself. That doesn't mean it always works. I should probably pour a little bit more water in here. The guy in the picture, he's autistic. Actual autistic. Does he look like he's got Down syndrome? Why do you listen to somebody who's got Down syndrome who's abused, but not somebody who's autistic? Because somebody who is autistic may not look disabled to you. But also, a lot of you ignore abuse against people with Down syndrome because you just assume that they're too retarded to know. Somebody with Down syndrome, if you punch them in the face, they know what being punched in the face is. So when somebody with Down syndrome says somebody punched me in the face, they do know what being punched in the face is, and it is a good idea to listen to them. Those of us with Asperger's, we're not low functioning anything. We're not low functioning. We're more intelligent than most of you. We have usually a 40-point lead on the rest of you as far as intelligence goes. 16% of people with autism have a very high spelling and reading level at a very young age. Also, 96% of the people with that particular disability are autistic people. I happen to be one of them. I had an 8th grade spelling level and a college reading level at the age of 6. But you want to call me a liar because that doesn't happen. Yes, it does happen with autistic people. High-functioning autistic people especially. But just because an autistic person cannot speak doesn't mean that they're retarded. Laura Nelson's son doesn't speak, and he's the smartest kid in his school. They found that out after they were able to get an electronic device that allows him to speak. How much money does it cost to get an iPad or even just a cheap Android that somebody can use who's autistic? Oh yes, but then we have to try to make a profit off of people who have problems that make it very expensive to even find childcare. You can get the Android, but the app to make it so that somebody who is autistic can speak to you is over $900 to $1,400. One of them is $3,600. Meanwhile, you can use the talk to speak feature. It doesn't cost you $900. It does exactly the same thing. You also have apps for children that have pictures on them. Pictures of ice cream cones, pictures of bikes, pictures of a milk carton or some apple juice. And you can set those, and those are free apps on both Apple and Android devices. Free apps. You just have to go to the educational portion of the apps to get it. Stuff that is specialized for people with autism, they already have it for many other people, so you don't have to take it, put autism as a name on it and try to fucking profit a whole bunch from it. Because these things already exist. Just get them the fucking Android and help them download the right app. Help to show the parents how to set it up so that they're not sitting there with an $1,100 to $1,400 piece of shit. Because guaranteed, the United States government, if they're expending their money for it, it's something that was refurbished half a decade ago, and they paid 3 times what it was worth when it first came out. I got a flip phone that cost $125. That's their free Obama phone, their free phone at the service here, TCCHC. The free Obama phone is a real smartphone that can actually be utilized for the things I need to use it for. Fucked my life. You can tell that I don't have Down syndrome, but you can also see, and a lot of the message to me and a lot of the stuff made about me and so on and so forth, calling me a retard is pretty popular. At first it was mongoloid. People went, well, you know what? Kids are running around calling each other mongoloids on the schoolyard, and that's just not right. So we'll change it to we'll change it to retarded, because it's not offensive. It means slowed down. But then all them kids, instead of calling each other mongoloids, started calling each other retards. And then, of course, they had to change it again. Oh, well, retarded doesn't work because kids are being mean now and calling each other retards on the school field and the schoolyard. So let's change it to developmentally disabled. But then we'll make developmentally disabled cover a wide range of things. And now, for anybody who sees anything about autism, they're going to think that it is synonymous. Anybody who sees the video with that girl in it, anyone who sees that is going to think that autism and Down syndrome are the same thing. It's a false association done so intentionally. And it doesn't just harm us, it also harms people with Down syndrome, and it harms the American public. This stuff is so cool. You also get to see how we tend to have more compassion than you ever give us credit for. You get to see how the man in that picture, he's helping women with autism to be recognized. And you know my opinion on most women who are diagnosed late in life about autism. Most of them are druggies. They don't have autism, they have brain damage and laziness and no life skills. That's the key right there. Most of them are pretty still. They're still young, usually in their mid-30s at most. Once they hit that brick wall, once they hit the wall, it's time to play autistic. And bat your eyes at a doctor and say, oh, please, doctor, could you diagnose me as autistic, please? Oh, I have a horrible time, and men victimize me all the time. I'm autistic, I must be, because I'm a horrible choice, or I have horrible choices in men. And then, of course, a lot of us, the bad behaviors that are socially acceptable for women, that women who claim to be autistic exhibit a lot more than men do. Well, we're told that those are autistic traits. You're blaming us for what the women are doing. That's so fucked. Women who probably are not autistic. Most of whom probably just did a lot of drugs, and many of whom actually did do a lot of drugs. They're not exhibiting signs of autism or mental retardation or Down syndrome. They're exhibiting signs of severe and long-term drug use and abuse. And why wouldn't they? Those drugs were free for a long time. That party life was free for a long time. The consequences didn't catch up to her until she was in her mid-30s. And now with no life skills, because her only life skill was looking pretty, she's fucked. And she better find somebody who will help her fleece the American people for their money. Fleece American men for their money. She better get pregnant so that she can get a free education and be a permanent full-time student. Where the average man earns almost $50,000 a year, and the average woman doesn't earn much less than that. A majority of the women in America expect a man to earn $100,000 a year or more. Women make 80% of the buying decisions in America. Men work more overtime. Women get to do more socializing in America, and many of the work activities that are set up specifically for women's work environments versus men's work environments result in things that are highly inappropriate. Things that are inappropriate in a male work environment that are brought there by women who want to cause drama. Like, sure, you were just the average looking woman for a lot of years, but now you just stepped onto a man's job site and want to swing a hammer. Now that you're on a man's job site and want to swing a hammer, and you're the only woman there willing to swing a hammer, that makes you the only woman there. And you didn't show up to work with makeup, but you are the best looking woman there by default. Tomorrow you might wear makeup to impress your coworkers and try to get one. I highly recommend not doing that. This might sound wrong, but makeup gets in the way on a construction site. It also attracts dust, like sawdust, and you don't want that shit in your eye. And that doesn't matter if you're wearing your safety goggles or not. Your eyelashes keep shit out of your eyeballs because your eyes are wet. That's why you blink. Make sure the debris doesn't get into your eyeballs, especially into the wet part. When you make your eyelashes an attractant for dust, you're getting dust that's going to stick to it. Well, you're making things worse for yourself, and you're also creating for yourself a safety issue and a safety risk. And if it gets sweaty and you get a little of that sweat pouring down your face and get some of that makeup in your eye while you've got a power tool on, or while you're setting up your harness, you could seriously fucking hurt yourself or others. Don't misrepresent the situation. If you want to say a woman can do anything that a man can do, that depends on the woman and it depends on the man. We all have different skills, regardless of our gender. Women intentionally mislead the situation. Police intentionally misleading the situation. The American government. And of course, we've got places like Autism Speaks, where they're not speaking for autistic people. They're speaking for parents of autistic people who want a cure for their retarded kids. And that's how those kids are treated. They're not allowed to stim or they'll be punished, same as me. But those parents are allowed to jump to getting physically abusive first. How would you like it if somebody held your hands while you're doing something that calms you down, using your hands, and they want to hold your hands down and tell you you can't do that? Or they want to yell at you to look them in the eyes over and over and over again. Look me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes. I'm going to try calling Dallas again. I don't know what's going on with him. I'm used to him not calling back when he says he's gonna. Something probably came up. It always does. Something always comes up no matter who it is, though. Isn't that true? Damn near, anyway. And when people don't communicate properly and don't communicate important information, it gets people hurt or killed. So I'm not going to stop speaking up about any of this. Autism and Down syndrome are not the same thing. It's not okay to treat people with Down syndrome that way. It sure as hell isn't okay to treat people with autism that way. How do you think that girl with Down syndrome feels about being pushed as the face of autism? There's a lot of these things that Autism Speaks makes that demonize autistic people. That's right, Autism Speaks has no members that are autistic making decisions. Just parents of autistic, brothers and sisters of autistic people. People who want us to be cured. Well, who says we want the cure? Who says we're the problem? We're different, not bad. And you need to learn the fucking difference because you're bad to us for being different.